It's always about people. You got to get the right people. You got to build the right culture. Orica Digital's built a massive software development capability. Yeah. We want to be best in market at that. And I actually think that's a way that we compete and we can win by being better at that than anyone else. The people who are using the tool, right, are going to have a great experience because it's robust. It connects to, all the bits work. And if things go wrong, when they call, they're going to get someone on the end of the phone who understands life on the drill rig.
Hello, welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have Orica Digital Solutions on the show and first-time guest, Peter Leckie. He is the Senior Manager of Product and Marketing for Orica Digital Solutions. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jared. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's I gave myself a crash course, and let's just say I'm glad I'm asking questions and not presenting, because there's a lot of small parts. I was watching a video, which was it now? I wish I had remembered. I was watching a video of on the Orica Digital, or on the we're discussing Access. So I was on the Access website, and it was showing all the parts and pieces that put this together. And I realized, okay, I just need to ask questions here, not trying to make things up.
Yeah, lots of hardware, lots of drilling hardware. Certainly, lots of stuff that that I've gotten up to speed with over the last couple of years since working with this great business.
I've referenced it on the show before, but we were talking. It was a talk show in Canada about the Internet of Things, and they were saying this is when the internet was sort of first, still sort of exploding, and people were sort of figuring out, and then they were saying that pretty soon we're going to merge the world of digital with real world applications. Well, this is a very specific example of what they're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great example. And I remember the same thing, going a long way back. And I've worked in sort of measurement hardware and technology for a long time. It's always this, sensor technology, it's going to get so cheap and so powerful, and, we'll have them everywhere. But actually, and particularly in the industrial setting, it takes a long time for that to play out. And, there's quite a lot of engineering involved in sort of delivering simplicity in products and really instrumenting things.
Yeah. Let's talk. Okay, let's just do a quick Orica Digital Solutions. Let's just do a quick intro for them. Most people watching are going to know, but there will be some people that don't. So let's do a quick introduction for Orica, and then for Access mining technology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Orica Digital Solutions is one of three kind of major pillars that make up Orica's business. So Orica is known as the world's largest supplier of explosives and related services and technology. 150 years of operation, coming through the chemical industry, long history. And, over the last 20 or so has, become that real sort of focused mining and explosives play. Digital Solutions within that is originally internally developed part of the business, looking at software, measurement hardware, data science, and really how we get that into mining workflows. We have started reporting that to market just in the last couple of years. It's been in existence for kind of 6 or 7, with some earlier parts before that. We've had software for about 35 years within Orica, blasting software. And then within that digital solutions world, we've got, stuff that happens on the bench. We've got one business which is very much around sort of geotechnical analysis. And then we've got the one that I sit in, which is ore body intelligence, which is really about all of those measurements, workflows, insights that happen from the moment of exploration right up to the moment before the blast in mining. So it's measurement, hardware, software, instrumenting the workflow.
I noticed Access had its own website, but with the Orica branding on it. So was this an acquisition company or an acquired company?
Yeah, it was. So as part of the the digital solutions background, Orica started on the bench in mining, where we play, right? It's where most of our people are, and you've actually interviewed some of my colleagues from the business talking about some of those digital solutions kind of workflow products. Those were quite successful, and we sort of bought some more and built some more. And Access was one of those companies. So Access Mine Tech produces survey hardware, survey equipment. So that's geospatial stuff. You drill a hole, you need to know where that hole is, where it's going, because ultimately that's the key piece of information on which all of your exploration data, all of your resource modeling, everything is hung. So for us, that was a great way for us to get into the upstream business. We didn't have that business capability internally. So we bought it in a couple of years ago, and I've been working since the moment of acquisition with Axis Mining Tech, and looking at how do we, really take that business to the next level. How do we make it truly global? How do we get it into parts of the operation that aren't in there at the moment? And yeah, how do we do better for more customers fundamentally?
I want to get into a bit of your background, but actually, maybe let's do that first because I want to. There's a whole sort of breakdown. There's Access All Gyro that I want to get into, and then there's these different. But then there's a whole bunch of other like Champ Navigator, Champ Navigator 2. I kind of just want to try to figure out how it all puts together.
Yeah.
But maybe I was also on your LinkedIn snooping around, and you've been with Orica. It says on your LinkedIn 18 years, I think.
Yeah, it's just almost exactly, actually, I think the end of this month. So it's been a really long stint and a great one. So, I mean, my original background's chem engineering, and I joined on, one of the chemical plants out of Melbourne in Australia. But, kind of pretty quickly, look, it's been a great place to work. I've had a lot of different roles. Most of the roles I've worked in have actually been roles that have been new or created as I've stepped into them. And for most of that journey, I've been given the opportunity to go and develop, build, commercialize technologies, measurement technologies, modeling technologies, service technologies. So it's been quite an interesting ride, certainly. And that goes back to, we've got a business that makes sodium cyanide, which is used in gold processing and extraction. So, we built some in-leach process modeling software. We did some benchmarking of gold extraction circuit performance. We had some measurement tools that sat in tank and told you how much, leaching power you had, really. And then, I went into other parts of Orica Digital, Frag Track, which is one of the major products there. It's a camera that sits on shovels and conveyors, gives you an automatic particle sizing of the rocks that go. So you've got to really go past it. So you've got a really good understanding of, what's happened after you blast. Some of that key information that goes into your load and haul can be combined with other information, so you can actually track, custody of information about your ore body. You've blown it up, where it's moved, what size the rocks are, what truck it goes into. So some pretty cool stuff. I ran I was global commercial manager for all of Digital Solutions for a couple of years. That was sort of all the software products in the space. And at the time, that was pretty much across the bench. So blasting workflow products. We've got the integrated extraction simulator, which can model like an entire asset, to look at how, if I change my mine plan, how might that impact on various processing investment scenarios. So, yeah, it's been pretty cool and pretty interesting. And then when I moved to Orbit Intelligence, it was really to take this great small business that we bought, Axis, and welcome it into the Orica family, but ultimately to set it up for success and the next generation and the next level of growth for that.
Which is what we're
going to. And that's,
where we're kind of at now. I can't help but ask this. Through your career, what segment was the most stretched you the most professionally, where you went, oh, okay, this is I've got to either up my game, or this is getting into an area where I need to really understand something I don't?
Look, it's I've been continually challenged, right? I mean, that's what I like doing. I like trying to solve curly problems. Probably the last one, in terms of, you've got an acquisition coming on. There's a lot of, at the time, it was the biggest thing we'd bought for a while. It's a great core business. There's a lot of, you're dealing with market expectations, shareholder expectations, internal expectations. You've got the founders of the business as well, who are, really important to that next level. And some of them, some of them have chosen to move on, and some of them are still here and they're in my team now, and they're, fully invested in the future of the business. And so, and also, with Axis, I'm moving into a space, I'm a chemical engineer. So I started, down here. I kind of moonlighted in metallurgy, went onto the bench into mining, and now I'm up in drilling and exploration. So, you've got all those layers of, hey, we've spent a whole bunch of money. We want to earn a return on it. We want to grow this business. And also I'm learning the subject matter at the same time. So, it's never a dull day. That's for sure.
Yeah. But with Access, you're talking about you kind of didn't highlight the technical part. It's more like the people part, kind of putting all the pieces in place.
it's always about people, you know. You got to get the right people, you got to build the right culture. And you know that, and also that speaks to, you know, I think my niche has always been around commercialization. And so, you know, there's lots of great technologies out there, but a great technology is not a great product. And, you know, to sort of turn that into something that actually is scalable, that grows, that gets embedded in people's operations, you know, the technology is a necessary but not sufficient part to do that. And so, yeah, you've got to have the right mix of people, you know, from which, you know, your engineers really need to understand not just this like fine detail of the technology, but they really got to understand the application and the customer. And, you know, also, you know, the customer facing team, you know, we're trying to build a lot of stuff pretty fast. You know, they're working with a bit of uncertainty, right? Things are developing quickly, new features and tools are coming on.
Yep.
You know, they've got to set expectations with their customers. Like the whole chain has to work, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we're not there yet. We've come a long way. You know, I think we've got a fair bit of steam, but you know, there's a long way to go. And look, I'm pretty excited about where it's going. It's been fun.
Well, and and this kind of pivots nicely into the all axis all gyro that I want to get into, and it's something that sort of fascinates me that I don't think anybody will completely ever understand, or else you'd become a billionaire overnight, is the fine line between knowing the product still is going to keep on developing, but also knowing it's ready for market.
Yeah. It's probably a wide line, really. You know, I see, you know, products are, you know, they've got a life, right? They're sort of a living, breathing thing, and you know, you have to choose moments in time where you say, okay, well, this is, you know, we're comfortable that this has got you know, we've retired sufficient risk to take this to market, that we're not going to let customers down, or, you know, that we can choose to engage with customers in the right way, that say, hey, look, here's what we know, but here's what we don't know, and here's how we're going to help you manage that. And, you know, some customers really love that. You know, they want to get involved at that last mile where they can actually shape the last mile of development. Others, you know, want to sort of say, you know, want to keep watching, but maybe jump on board a bit later. It's about, you know, working with your customers and being really clear about what, you know, what it is, what stage you're at and where they want to get involved. And I mean, the all gyro is a great one. So, you know, I'll go back a bit in terms of, you know, what Axis do a little bit more, because it probably speaks to why we've gone the course that we're going, you know, with the all gyro. So, you know, Axis instrument the drilling workflow fundamentally, right? So you've got people out there either in exploration, resource definition, you know, we're heading into the mine, you know, they're drilling holes, and they're drilling holes for the purpose of, you know, in exploration, collecting information. You know, when you get into blasting, you are, you know, for the purpose of implementing a blast design, but there's also the opportunity to collect information there. And, you know, the Axis business was born out of innovation in hardware, right? They took a complex measurement in terms of a gyro survey, which previously required a survey team to do, and they engineered it in a way where it's deliverable by the driller. The founders of the business, real drilling experience, really credible, great people. And so, you know, it sort of sliced through, particularly the Australian market, very effectively, because, you know, you've given the drillers power, you've got a cost benefit for the customer, productivity benefit, and, you know, great success story. And, you know, some other products they built also did that. It's all about how that hardware, you know, sits into the user's workflow, right? The stuff they're doing already, you know, they need to stop, they need to pull core, you know, they can go and then take a gyro survey at that point. There's no time cost for them, but it collects, you know, a very important piece of data. So when looking at how do we take the business into the future, you know, what decisions do we make about product and technology? You know, the landscape has changed. And so I used that phrase necessary but not sufficient a few minutes ago. And it's the same. So, you know, great hardware is necessary but not sufficient for how we take the business forward. So, you know, what we've been doing is looking at, you know, and it's kind of easy to say but difficult to do. So when we're looking at, we instrument the workflow, we've got two groups. We've got the users of our tools, you know, the drillers, or maybe the drill and blast team, like hole prepped crew or loading crew. And they've got a set of needs, right? They need the thing to work. They need the software to work. They need to know that if they're they're not going to have to repeat measurements, that the hardware is suitably robust, right? And, that they can keep their customer, who might be the exploration geologist, happy. Then you've got the other customers who are the engineer or the geo. They need to know that, hey, I've got a drill plan. I might be in the field. I might be in an office thousands of kilometres away from the drill site. I'm going to get that plan to the drillers. I've got to trust that the provider of the hardware and software is going to enable them to take a high quality measurement in the application I need them to. So I've got faith in that measurement, and I can get the QC I need. I can see how I'm going. I can take corrective action if my drill hole is going off plan. So those two groups of people, right, they've got related but ultimately distinct needs. So when we're looking at things like the old gyro, we said, right, we're going to take access from a business that builds great driller operable hardware to one that instruments the drilling workflow. And so when you look at it that way, just building a new gyro technology that's, a little bit more accurate or, does, some different things is part of the solution, but it's not the whole solution. So, we've got this great range, and you talked about, and all the products can be pulled back to this. You've got a set of tasks that happens in the field. We're looking at how do we put measurements into those tasks in a way that, the drillers, we're the driller's choice because of all those reliability things, and they can get support when they need it. And we're the engineer or the geologist's choice because they know they can get high quality data, lots of measurements, happy drillers. Keep the geos happy, they don't bother the drillers. Keep the drillers happy, the geos get lots of measurement, right? Everyone wins. So we've gone from hardware, we say, right, we're going to build a new gyro product. Well, we've looked at a lot of cutting edge technology, and we've found some technology that we think is first in market in terms of actually does expand the measurement range of the core gyro product. So that's, you've got a technology which does more than what's out there at the moment.
So this is the hardware side. On the hardware side, it's actually pulling more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we basically, there's a limitation due to physics in terms of where you can take what's called a north-seeking shot. The north-seeking shot is basically the gyro itself will tell you which way it's facing. You don't have to give it a starting position. You stop and take it. And due to the physics, right, there's been always a limitation of being able to do this down a hole when you're going kind of east-west. I won't go into the detailed example, but it's basically there's not enough force to measure. Yeah,
we got nerds that watch this show, and so they'll love it. Yeah, you can go into detail.
Yeah. What's kind of like, I mean, the quickest way to do it is, the old science experiment where you got the bike tire, right, and the handles, and when you go like this, you feel a force. Okay, that's how this technology works fundamentally. Except the bike tire is actually the Earth rotating. So the sensors are so precise that they can feel when you go like this, we move around differently in that force that's applied relative to the rotation of the Earth. And when you're like, going straight, when the bike tire's like this, you've got no force. And that's kind of what a gyro feels or has felt. There's just not enough. Well, there's not enough force to pick up when you're pointing horizontal and going east-west.
Right.
So it's been a limitation in the technology. Now, you can do it with large units. You can do it with ones that have got all sorts of restrictions on them, not in a way to get down hole. Now, when you're underground and you're exploring for minerals, it's quite likely that you're going to have to measure in a horizontal plane.
Right.
And there are ways to do it at the moment, but there's a lesser measurement quality than being able to north seek. So we've cracked that nut, right? So that's the hardware side of and then we say, okay, well, we've cracked the measurement conundrum, but how do we turn this into a product, right? Like, we've got this great range of tools, the Navigators that you talked about, and they are used underground. They were kind of built for surface. They're a great range of surface tools. You're going straight down, and variations of down when you're drilling from the surface. But where, like I said, where there's been gaps has been underground, where you might be going up, down, left, right.
Right. Yeah.
And that sense, things like the size and weight of the tools really important. The deployment, how you actually get it in and out of the hole. There's also, you start getting into not just exploration, but into blast hole measurement. And that's something where, like, that's probably a separate thing, go into in a minute. But, you've got speed, you've got differences in workflows. Like, have the holes been surveyed before I get to them? Do I have to do a north-seeking shot? Do I, who's actually doing it? Is it the drill and blast crew? Is it the hole prep crew? Are they Orica people? They might be, they might not be. So you've got to engineer for all of those things. You've got to have, so the hardware, right? The hardware is the thing on the brochure, right? The all gyro is the thing on the brochure.
Right.
But actually what you're getting and, what we're building is that, so if you're going to choose Axis, what you get is the full stack, right? You're going to get a measurement, and we talk about internally, we're starting to use it externally. We want to be better in the specs that matter, right? And that means that, for an expert or a geologist, right, they might want, accuracy at a certain point. But for a driller, right, they're going to want something that's not going to cause them manual handling issues. You don't want to have all this extra hardware on site that, you need to fit bits together and you might lose them or get damaged and then you can't use it. Cases that, weigh, they're light in weight so that one person can carry them. The less stuff you have to break or that you have to, that's away from the norm. Those are specs that matter to our users. And they've got nothing to do with the measurement technology. So, in that sense as well, we've also, like I said, the all gyro goes in the brochure, but we've actually fully re-architected our software stack as well. And it's all sort of coming to market at the moment over the next few months. So,
re-architect it. Re-architected. Is that a word? Re-architected?
It is now.
Is this for just specifically the new product or for everything?
It will go to everything.
Okay,
right?
so
all customers will get it. Yeah, we've done we are doing a huge amount of development, and we're really taking the opportunity to refresh everything with that. How do we? Like I said, we've got two groups of users.
Yes.
How do we make sure we've got an offer that really hits between the eyes of those two groups?
This is something. Sorry to jump in, but there's something I'm quite curious about. All this development, was this when the company, and if I'm getting to something that shouldn't be discussed, then just let me know. But
yeah.
When the company was bought, was this already in development, or were they onboarded going, okay, and then Orica went, this is where we can take this? Because it's only a couple years ago, so I was just curious of like the North Seeking, was that already sort of being developed, or was this Orica said, okay, let's integrate this in?
Look, it's a bit of both. So some, there were concepts of building the all angle North Seeking tool, but the technology route that they're on, which was really limited by the technology available at the time,
right.
wasn't going to suffice. There's been a couple of elements that attempt at building a rig alignment offering, a box that sits on a rig and sort of tells you where you're going to get started. But they weren't able to quite get there. So some of that concept of, right, we want to expand the functionality of the range existed, but certainly hey, we've got to look beyond. We've got to, we can't favour one user group at the exclusion of the other, right, but actually calling that out and then using that knowledge to drive the development, right? Looking at the customer's need and the different customer needs and using that to drive the development. That's something that's come on board since that time.
Wow. So this is 2 years of major development then. R&D and design and wow. And
the Axis is a small business. They had some software offerings, which, fit the needs at the time. But, Orica Digital's built a massive software development capability. And, I was involved in some of the early products as well. And, we've learned a lot of lessons on the way. And so now, Axis is able to come in and benefit from that. We totally refreshed our cloud application, which is like a key part of how we engage with geologists and mining companies. And, we built that from the ground up in 6 months last year. It's in market. It's been really, really great for us.
Wow.
It's still seeing uptake. And, we did that. And I know that, and I speak to Matt Kraft, who's the head of our software development. on the East Coast, and we've worked together for a long time. And we talk about how all that pain we went through in the early days of digital, we're now able to like scope, understand, collect requirements, and ultimately deliver a great new application from sort of 0 to 100 in a very short amount of time.
You're leading me right into a question I wanted to ask. Is you said about redeveloping the software stack. I mean, that saying that 10 years ago meant that you spent 2-3 years. You brought in a team. You probably had to like go and like search the market for a couple specialists to bring over and try to get them from one company to yours. I'm kind of getting the impression to redevelop the stack did not take that now. It's kind of what you just referenced.
Yeah, look, we've got a lot of in-house capability. We've got the sort of earlier existing capability, which is largely based in Newcastle on Australia's east coast. There's also some in-house software capability here, who are directly working with every day. And yeah, look, there's this big engine that Digital Solutions has got.
Yeah.
And, we're able to work with, where we need some extra horsepower, we can work with some third party agencies, but they're people we've known for years. There's some that we work with that, they're people who've previously worked with Orica before. They're really known to us. They've got a history of delivery. So, in some ways, particularly on the software side, that engine that's taken a few years to spin up is now, we're able to sort of, point at new problems and see things happen really quickly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the cloud side, we're able to leverage a lot of the architecture and through to things like authorization, authentication that, have been built elsewhere and take them across. It's ISO 27001, which is like a data security ISO certification, so we're able to do that very quickly because, of how we're developing it. In the field tablet application, the stuff that the drillers use, that's not out yet, but it's in test at the moment. Again, like it's totally ground up rewrite using a modern framework, which enables us to like compile across different operating systems really simply. So as it starts to go live, we'll always supply, tablet or phone hardware, or we will at least for the foreseeable future. But, we'll be able to support, pretty soon after, Windows, Android, iOS, potentially if there's a need for it, if people want it. It also enables us to do stuff like Linux. So we could potentially get into the drill cabin, which, opens up all sorts of automation opportunities as well.
And allows, a different tablet or screen for different things that people are doing. All of a sudden now it starts to centralize into one device and one app and multiple applications on one device and all these sorts of things, right?
Yeah. And look, the way I see it, and particularly with software, is that, we've got to be conscious of, we're just a small piece in our customers' lives, right? And we get paid, or contracted to do a task, right? For Axis, that's to instrument that workflow. And, we want to do that better than anyone else, but doesn't mean that there's a land grab around software. And, a lot of people try and grab all the software, they lock stuff down, they make it hard to get in and out. Mm-hmm. Actually, we go, and this goes throughout Digital Solutions, the opposite. So I see, we're like a jigsaw piece, right? In a jigsaw, which is our customer's operating environment, and all the other bits of software and hardware that they need to use, they need to contract with. Now, I want to make our users and the people who both use the tools or buy them life as easy as possible, that they can trust us to do exactly what we need to do. But ultimately, we can get their information and their data into and out of all those right. Other, jigsaw pieces around really effectively. We want to be best in market at that. And I actually think that's a way that we compete and we can win by being better at that than anyone else, because if I'm, in my world, right, I don't want to have 1,000 logins of things. I don't want to work with people who either tell me that I need to buy like the full range of things to get benefits. I want this, I want to get it at a reasonable price, and I want to get a good level of service, and I want it to play nicely with the other bits around it.
And I also, the other thing I wanted to ask about too is that because Orica is actually operating, they're using the software and the hardware that you develop, it was actually kind of unique. Like there's not that many companies. There's the hardware companies, there's the service companies, but Orica has these different levels to it. How much do you think that plays into expediting development? Like, take away your operations side and just try to deliver the software and hardware into the market. You're talking about a completely different business.
Yeah, it works both ways, actually. So and we're really about to see that in Axis as we move into blast hole surveying, which the all gyro is one of the enablers for that. So right now, traditionally most of our customers have been drillers, operating on, maybe exploration sites. So miles away from Orica. As, we're getting better at that, and we're seeing it, in the market that stuff about the stack, right? That, hey, you've got, we know that you need something different to you, and we're building out, a set of technologies and offers that suits it. And people are, they're buying into it and they're enjoying it. So we're now getting much closer to, Orica's traditional operation, which is on bench. We're starting to do some work in the mine, and particularly underground, and that's where Orica crews will, sometimes be the people that use them and sometimes won't. Elsewhere in digital, though, some of those blasting related products, it's always been Orica people have been heavy users. But one of the things that, when digital was started, we started investing in this. It was always to be not beyond Orica, right? So we don't just want to build tools that help our people, do their job better, right? That's certainly a benefit. But actually, we want to have something that's got a standalone value in market. And when I say standalone value, it's basically, the concept was like being best in breed. So like I said, you're a customer, you've got a need for a measurement device or that kind of thing. Our teams have been, designed to just go and build the best product to suit that need, right? Doesn't matter if you are Orica, you're not Orica, you're a competitor, you work for a competitor company, right? So if you want this, then the product is going to serve your needs, and it's not going to be linked. But having footprint on a few thousand sites, a couple thousand sites globally,
a bit of an advantage.
does provide us a huge channel to market. Provides us with a lot of great feedback. The people within Orica, our site-based teams are so passionate about blasting, right? Like it's crazy. They just want to do a better job, right? I've spent a lot of time, sort of in all of our regions and offices and sites, but it always comes down to those site teams, tech services and that kind of thing. They are just so hungry to improve blasting outcomes. So we get lots and lots of feedback, and sometimes it's like, you've got this huge funnel, right? And you've got to try and turn that into, pick the best ones and that sort of thing. But it's so great, right? You want it. It's a massive benefit to our technology development, and giving those people the agency and the input over how products and market develop. Like that's, we got to harness that.
Talking about the technology and the development is you have to go into that, but are there any examples of real world applications? You've actually brought this to a client and they've, had measurable results.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And we've got one which I think we published sometime last year. It's about a gold mining customer in Victoria, in Australia. And, it's actually it's one of our products, a small one. I've got the piece of hardware here, actually. So this little thing is a measurement device, and it tells you which way your drill core was facing when you're down the hole. So it's important for structural geology. It's important, maybe you're chasing a gold vein, you want to know which way it's going. And this thing, basically it replaces a wear part. This is actually an unreleased version. This is the next version that's coming out, some hardware mods, but it replaces a wear bushing in the hardware assembly. So you're taking something that's a piece of metal that breaks. You put this measurement device on it. So it's very, very light. It's significantly lighter than most other options in market. And again, it's that workflow piece, right? So you're not asking anyone to carry any extra hardware, add things on the end, which is what typically people have to do. You're just inserting something into the assembly that they use. Now, the reason that we do all this, right, and the reason why I kind of harp on about it is the hypothesis is if you make it as easy as possible for the people who are using the tools, right, with the least disruption, most reliability, then you'll get more measurements and then more of them at a higher quality. Right, that's the hypothesis, and that's why we do all this, because we want to take measurements, better measurements, higher quality. So the case study was, this customer went and did a bunch of tests. They had historical data with a different type, and they tried basically all the ones in market, and they saw over a period of time, and I think it was a 12 to 18 months. So it was a pretty long study that they were getting significantly more measurements and more measurements that passed QC over that time period. I can't remember the numbers, but it was like a 50% increase or 50% decrease in failure rate that they were seeing. And, the reason is because this sits in the assembly, whereas the other options out there, they're extended on, you need extra bits to attach them. You need to do something different. It creates weak points. So for me, the case study itself, like it's not full of pictures, or it's not like an Orica case study where there's lots of photos of things blowing up, but actually it's really valuable because that hypothesis that says make it easy for the user and you'll get more data at a higher quality. I think it really proves it. So yeah, it's a good one. I love these things. It's the first bit of hardware that I saw when I started joining with Axis. They look really super cool in the little case when they pop out. So, and it's been really popular with our customers.
It's just always impressive when somebody can design. Yeah, because it's one thing to design something that tacks on. It's another thing to design something that integrates. They're very different things.
Yeah, and it's there's so much effort and skill in making something that looks really, really simple.
Exactly.
And functions, in a simple way. Yeah.
I'm curious how you keep that culture at Orica, because I've interviewed several people from different divisions, and we've featured interviews also that I haven't done. So we've done, I forget how many we've done within the full Orica brand now. We might be on like our fifth one or something like that.
Yep.
And I've done enough interviews. I can tell the people that are actually into it or the people that are getting handed a script and have to do their job. Off camera, the people are still chattering about what's going on at Orica. So there's a passion there. That you can't fake that. That's either as part of the culture or it's not. And I'm curious, what do you think is driving that?
It's a great question. I mean, I've always found that, Orica as a place to work has been, the thing that kind of when I first joined, and that sort of still, like there's variations as you go through in different businesses and different levels, but there's certainly a mutual respect within the organisation. Like, if you've got an idea or, like it's not super hierarchical or anything like that, there's always been, lots of, senior people will know, in fact, some of the first people I worked under, the sort of VPs and business level, and they know everyone who's on the factory floor and that kind of thing. And so that culture, has made it a good place to, a good place to be, whether you're in the explosives business, whether you're in quarrying, whether you're in digital. And then, I know reasonably well a bunch of the people that you've interviewed in some of the digital stuff, and most of them have been around for, within digital for, similar periods of time to me, or if they weren't in, they were sort of adjacent to. And look, I mean, it's been a wild, chaotic, exciting ride. I mean, when I joined digital in 2019, I'd been in my other role doing, measurement stuff and, process modeling, and it was cool. I was kind of building a business on my own, but I needed something new. I was like, I'm getting a bit stale. I got to try something new. And went in, and it was like jumping in a raging torrent. And at that point, it was a lot smaller than it was now. It was kind of like a couple of rooms full of developers in Newcastle and half a dozen other people. And we're now in this great position where we've got, a new gyro product coming out. We've got a new rig alignment product coming out. We've got new tablet software, new cloud software. We've got new versions of our legacy products, where we've improved.
Amazing.
And that's so everyone's really on this kind of crazy delivery thing at the moment. But, in the next couple of months, we do need to create that time to draw breath. I've got a few, I'm starting to look at that. Well, I'm looking at, the beyond that. but actually, yeah, I let people draw breath, get into that sort of creativity bit. But sometimes, sometimes you can create, like right now, we're field piloting a lot of stuff. And, so that's in this, I see there's kind of like stages to that. There's like controlled piloting, which is where, the engineering team goes and takes it out the back and they, approximates real world. Then there's kind of supervised testing, which is where maybe our super users in the regional teams are out playing with it. And they've got the tyranny of distance and time zones, and they haven't been involved in all the development. So they will find, tripwires and stuff. And then you got unsupervised testing, which is like, the super users are happy with it. They give it to a customer and say, right, let it rip. Tell us where the bugs are. And that this whole process, right, it unearths all sorts of things that, from an engineering team, they've never foreseen. But then when people really start cracking, and there's a few things at the moment, I like little things, I won't go into details, but like a problem comes up and you can see everyone just like jump on it, formulate it, work around it, and then come up with a solution. And there's a couple of things that we've got that we're going to patent, right, as a result of that sort of that quick ideation, which is, necessity is the mother of invention, really. And that's like, as someone who's actually leading the team, right, that's super, it's such a great feeling, right, seeing people rip into things like that.
I want to wrap up with just kind of circling back to the all gyro. What is the end product? What is the experience going to be like from the customer use? What can they expect? I know you've kind of touched on it, but sort of wrapping it together. When someone's hearing this, and there'll be a link, for them to click on and go to and everything like that. What's the end user experience?
Yeah. So you're going to pick up a case, right, which is kilograms lighter than the case that you pick up at the moment. And when you put it in the you drive to site, when you assemble it, you're going to have, the right hardware for your application, right? And that's going to be a bit different depending on the different types of drilling, but the hardware that's going to get the best performance out of it. When you open up the software, it's going to work. It's going to connect, first time, every time. And you're going to be able to take your measurement with the minimum number of clicks. And that also includes that on that tablet is all the information you need to fulfill your requirements, right? And it's going to be really easy to see, and you're going to know when there's, if there's problems or when there's not. If you are, when that information is there, it's going to be seamlessly transferred out, not just to our cloud application, where someone can really quickly log in and see, hey, I'm okay, or I've got a problem. But also, too, it's going to natively go into all the other workflow management tools that you use. If you're doing drill and blast, it's in Deswick, right? If you're doing, if you're doing drill site management, it's in Core Plan or Crux or Acquire or Leapfrog, right? That it's going to be, the information's going to be where you want it, how you want it, with the quality that you want it. And the people who are using the tool, right, are going to have a great experience because it's robust. It connects to, all the bits work. And if things go wrong, when they call, they're going to get someone on the end of the phone who understands life on the drill rig. And that last one is not specific to the product, but that is like, it's almost as important as any of the product development.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I've never developed what you have. I've developed something else. But I can still appreciate the work it takes. And you think you're done, and then 6 months later, like, this is nothing even like we thought we were going to do. And just little details and keeping a team together, and people move on. You got to bring in new team members and pick up where you left off, and just all that stuff. So I know the work that goes behind it, and it's something to be proud of. So congratulations. And I'm sure the market, like so many things Orica has brought to the market, it's just a huge success. So congratulations.
No, thanks, Jared. It's great. We're on a journey, and we're like I said, I don't think we're there yet, but I'm pretty excited about where we're going. And what you said just resonates, because in some ways, you could be building anything, right? And there's a lot of similarities, right? That uncertainty, the team stuff, and whether it's gyro technology or just like building a business, right? Like building a podcast, right? It's all important.
Well, it's like even to do this, this show, just turn on the cameras. I always say there's probably about 50 manufacturers just sitting in this room right now that are involved, all the adapters and cables and lenses and stands. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's all these companies contributing and then being willing to put it all together and listen to producers who have new suggestions. And like you're talking about, take something to market. Turning on a camera is not enough. You have to be able to then scale it. You have to then be able to repeat it and make the experience similar for everybody. There's just so much involved in it, and but if you're into it, it's a ton of fun, and it seems like you're kind of in that way of thinking. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be fun, right? Like, that's if it stops being fun, think about how to make it fun, or think about doing something different, I reckon.
Well, and in your case, you just bring on the next challenge. You just pick the new segment. So, Peter, thank you so much for doing this. I hope we get to do it again. And thank you. And yeah, all the success. It's going to be fun to watch it as it continues to expand into the market.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jared. Great to talk.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We will put a link to the Access All Gyro. And if you want to connect directly with Peter, we always put the guest LinkedIn in the description as well. So you can do that as well. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to subscribe and follow us. Thank you for your support. Thank you to sponsors and everybody around us that keeps booking new episodes. And it's been a crazy ride just here at Mining Now. So thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode of Mining Now.